then, because it was mostly based on interviews. But then later on, I started, sort of making up my own little...
A punk rock legend. A sex symbol. And the woman who once drove the whole world crazy with her cold, defiant, and lethally seductive allure. But that very woman, Debbie Harry, has had to swallow her tears for over 50 years because of 5 men who silenced her, enraged her, and forced her to live like a singing doll, until she had nothing left to lose. Now, at 80, she has decided to tell it all. One man blackmailed her with secretly taken nude photos backstage. Another dragged her into addiction, to control her, to turn her into a money-making tool. And one, she says, if I'd had a gun that day, he wouldn't be alive now. Why did Debbie keep that secret for decades? Who used power to shut her up? And which big name in the rock world is about to be exposed? You're about to hear a story even the most devoted Blondie fans have never known. A story never featured in the press. Never told in any interview. Stay tuned. In just 30 seconds, you'll hear the first name on the list of the 5 lifelong enemies. Hit like and subscribe, because the most painful betrayal, the darkest secret, is still waiting for you. And don't forget to comment. Who do you think betrayed Debbie Harry the most?
Might have been particularly horrible at the time, but you're sort of...
The first name. The one Debbie Harry hates to her very core. Not a stranger, but someone who once slept beside her, made coffee in the morning, and stood beside her on stage under blinding lights. Chris Stein, the guitarist and co-founder of Blondie. And the first man who turned Debbie Harry from an artist into a prisoner in her own band. I loved him like a teammate. But it turns out, I signed a deal with the devil. When Debbie was still a waitress at Max's Kansas City and no one knew the name Blondie, Chris came with kind eyes, beautiful promises, and a pen for her to sign the paper. But no one told her that buried in that paper was a clause giving him full control over her image, songs, and even her identity. I didn't know what I was signing. I just remember him saying, "Want to be famous? Take your clothes off." From that moment on, Debbie no longer got to choose the songs. No longer got to pick her outfits. No longer decided who could touch her backstage. She had 2 choices, submit or disappear. Chris was her first lover, her stage partner, but also the first to pull her closer to the abyss. He didn't hit, he didn't yell, but every time she resisted, he would just smirk. "Don't forget who made you Blondie." Debbie once said, "I stopped singing. I chain-smoked and cried. And when I couldn't cry anymore, I wrote a suicide note. Not to send, just to survive until morning." All those first albums, Chris held the copyright. All the record profits went straight into his account. And Debbie? She had to borrow lunch money from her assistant. I once dreamed of strangling him. And woke up, feeling blissful. Blondie, the band that shook the 70s, was born from such a twisted love. And when Chris fell seriously ill, Debbie paused her career to care for him. But when he recovered, he left. Took all the rights, all the master recordings, and her heart, as if she had never existed. He didn't kill me with his hands. He killed me with silence. And a gaze cold as stone. I thought I had hit rock bottom. But no, the next man didn't need to hit, didn't need to love, didn't need to lie. All he needed was power, and eyes that could strip a woman's soul bare in the middle of a hotel room. And this time, it wasn't a lover. It was a film mogul who once made all of Hollywood bow. Harvey Weinstein, a monster wrapped in an Italian suit. The man once called the master of cinema of the 20th century. And the one who made me, a defiant icon, tremble in the elevator like prey just escaping the jaws of a tiger. I wasn't stupid. I knew the game. I wasn't the first girl invited to a hotel to talk about scripts. But that day, I still went. Because I thought I was clear-headed. I had survived the rock and roll world, and I thought, who could possibly scare me now? I was wrong. He came out of the bathroom, wearing nothing but a white towel. He looked at me like I was merchandise. And I understood, he didn't need to ask for permission. Because he believed, he had bought me the moment I walked in the door. I stepped back. I told him I wasn't comfortable. He just shrugged, poured wine, and smirked. "You don't get it, do you? This is Hollywood, honey. Here, if you don't kneel, you disappear." I turned and left the room. But I didn't leave as a winner. I left like someone who had just lost their future, simply for refusing to take their clothes off. The next morning, I was cut from the film project. A week later, my show was cancelled without reason. A month later, the record label sent a letter saying, temporary suspension of collaboration. No one spoke his name. But everyone knew. Just one nod from Harvey, the whole industry would back off from you like you were contagious. And what drove me crazy the most? It wasn't the threats. It wasn't losing the role. It was the dirty, shameful, and hopeless feeling that made me afraid to even look at myself in the mirror. I wasn't touched. But my dignity was stripped away. I wasn't raped with hands or feet, but with power and a look. I used to wonder, how many girls entered that room, and never came out the same? How many gave up their lives, just to hold on to a contract, a role, a chance to exist? I don't need him to die. I want him to sit there, every day, hearing his name on the lips of the women he thought he had silenced. But Harvey didn't steal my voice. He just suffocated my spirit. And the next man, he stole the last hope I had, the chance to be a mother. His name was Penn Jillette, a famous magician, sharp-tongued like a razor, loved by all of America for his intelligence, boldness, and eccentricity. But to me, he wasn't human. He was a circular saw, cutting me into pieces, each one laughing. I loved him. Yes, I admit it. I loved him with the exhaustion of a woman who had been coerced, betrayed, and controlled. I thought he was the last umbrella in the storm. We laughed, wrote music, cooked, and I had planned for a child, though I hadn't conceived yet. I named it. I kept the secret of the first negative pregnancy test, then the second, then the third. I believed God was still giving me a chance. That if I survived Chris, if I survived Harvey, then this would be my reward. But no. This was the slap. The kick. The dirty ending of a grotesque joke called love. Penn didn't fool me with roses or diamonds. He fooled me with his presence. With the way he was there, listening, empathizing, making me lower my guard. Then one day, he quietly strangled me with the news on television that he was holding another woman's daughter. On national TV. Smiling as if he'd never known it. Debbie, who had once sat crying in the bathroom from blood loss and her 12th pregnancy test. I collapsed. No sound. No one knew. My body, already weak, started to falter. The doctor told me, your uterus has shut down due to prolonged psychological trauma. It's beyond recovery. I didn't want to die. I just wanted to stop being me. I sang, but no sound came out. I don't hate him. I curse that each time he looks at his child, he'll wonder. Has anyone ever loved me so much they tried to conceive on hope, and miscarried on a news broadcast? But Penn, despite his cowardice, was still the one who left. And the next man? He stayed. And killed me with compliments. With gentle eyes. With the words, you're just being too sensitive. I once thought Chris Stein was the controller. Penn Jillette was the betrayer. But Eric Emerson? He was the one who erased the original, and replaced it with a fake Debbie, obedient, quiet, too afraid to scream, even while being trampled. I met Eric in 1973, when I was still a lost girl in the underground world of New York. He was like the light of a delirium. Beautiful. Strange. And dangerous enough to make you want to dive in, just to disappear. He didn't love me. He experimented with me, as if I were part of his show. You'd be prettier if you stayed quiet. Don't sing too high. You sound shrill. I don't need a famous girlfriend. I need a shadow who walks beside me. I didn't realize I was giving up pieces of myself to be with him. And he, every time I stood out, would pull me back. With a word. With a look. With the way he turned himself into the center and me into the accessory. One night, I performed at Max's Kansas City. The stage was on fire. The crowd was cheering. I thought I had just been reborn, but backstage, Eric said something cold as ice. You just made yourself look like a horse screaming in front of a bunch of horny guys. I went home and immediately abandoned the idea of releasing my first single. I wasn't afraid of him hitting me. I was afraid I would believe him again. And I did. I canceled the recording session. I turned down the invitation to perform at CBGB. I moved in with him, into an apartment filled with candles, ecstasy, and philosophical conversations that led nowhere but to tears. He told me, "Stop trying to be something. You're enough, just lying still." I used to be a storm. But Eric turned me into a drizzle, sad, small, and disappearing before leaving a trace. I left without saying goodbye. I ran from him, like fleeing from an invisible hand tightening around my neck. Have you ever built an empire, only to be pushed out as if you'd never existed? Ever sang with your soul, only for the album to come out with all the glory going to someone else? I used to think, hell is where they hit you. But with Mike Chapman, hell is where they praise you, but take everything from you behind the scenes. Chapman didn't yell in my face. He didn't throw things. He just patted my back and said, "Good job. But don't forget, this is my product." I used to sit for hours writing lyrics, cry while singing a line that I knew was my blood and flesh. But when the song was released, my name was printed in small letters, like a typo, "You're the body. I'm the brain." The audience needs to look, not care about what you write. Just smile. Everything else, I'll take care of. And I smiled. Smiled until my soul was shattered. Once, I dared to speak up, asking for the rights to arrange music, to compose, to sign my name in big letters. He laughed, "Fine. Then you bring the money, rent the studio, print the records. But if you still use the name Blondie, keep quiet. You think working with a genius is a privilege? No. Working with Chapman is a way to accept being devoured with a silver spoon." I didn't lose my voice. I lost the right to speak. I remember one time we sat at a press conference after our album hit #1 on the Billboard charts. Chapman proudly declared, "Debbie is the best product I've ever produced. Not collaborator. Not co-creator. A product. I used to dream of standing at the top. But when I got there, I felt like a mannequin in a store, beautiful, shiny, soulless, and everyone thought I was Mike's decoration." Have you ever seen yourself erased from your own life? I have. Every song that played was a stab. Not because of the sound, but because my voice rang out, but no one knew it was mine. Chapman didn't kill me with his fists. He killed me slowly with fake compliments, media smiles, and erasing my name from every hall of fame. He didn't need to silence me. He just needed to make the whole world believe I never spoke. And now, at 80, all I want to ask is, how many women like me have been turned into symbols under someone else's name? How many voices have been squeezed behind the spotlight for daring to shine brighter than the men in the room? I am Debbie Harry. I don't need to be loved anymore. I just want to be remembered the right way. Not as a punk doll, but as the woman who had to scream from hell to take back herself. If you've ever had your name erased, been patted on the back and told, "Just be pretty," had to stay silent for fear of losing an opportunity, know this: you're not crazy. You're not weak. You're just living in a world where women have to raise their voices loud, just to earn the right to exist. I used to stay silent to keep the band together. I used to close my eyes to keep the peace. I used to endure to preserve what they called a career. But at 80, I have nothing left to lose. And no one can make me silent anymore. 5 men. 5 cuts. No one hit me, but each one of them made me bury my own voice. Chris turned me into a symbol with shame. Penn betrayed me when I needed an ally. Eric erased me from my own mind. Mike stole my voice and put his name on every song. And one man, if I had had a gun that day, he wouldn't be alive. That I'm not telling this to gain sympathy. I'm telling it to remind the world there are flames that were once suffocated, but never went out. That I am Debbie Harry. I used to be a punk doll. Now, I'm a witness. And I am not silent anymore. And if you think this story is worth hearing, share it. Comment on it. Because maybe another woman out there is waiting to be reminded that they are not alone, and they deserve to be called by their true name.